It's my privilege this morning to invite a member of our sermon group to address this august congregation today. So, Bob Hiss, I will invite you to come on up to the pulpit, and this is Bob's first sermon. I'm blowing your cover, Bob, but thank you for doing this.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. As Hall said, this is my rookie appearance before you as a junior member of the sermon group. I gave it a dry run at 8 o'clock, and Hall let me come back, so apparently it was acceptable. So the title of my thinking today is We Need More Josephs. And in the greatest story ever told, Jesus is clearly the superstar. The Virgin Mary is the leading lady, but I think Joseph is best actor in a supporting role. And just wanted to comment back to the gospel that we had today. Hall gave me 3 different choices, and I particularly like this one, because if you look back on what Joseph has done at this point, he remained engaged to a pregnant Mary that was not pregnant by him. He protected her all the way to Bethlehem. He took her and the baby Jesus to Egypt until Herod had died, raised Jesus as his own, taught him his trade of carpentry, but he was quiet in the gospel. There are no known spoken words from Joseph. We only know his deeds, sort of like Bob Hamblett. So we need more Josephs, and this may be the wrong audience, and I'm literally preaching to the choir because this church is filled with Josephs. Men who are faithful husbands and devoted fathers, they're providers and protectors to their children, men who know and do their duty. There's a saying that any guy can be a father, but only a man can be a dad. And we have a new example of a Joseph with us here today. Hall is about to baptize the 3rd child of Tristram and Nika. And that is the grandchild of John and Cricket Seidman. So John has clearly been a Joseph to his daughter, Nika. And now Tristram has the opportunity again to be a Joseph to his 3 children and demonstrate the proper ways of manhood. And by the way, I do hope we will see you in church in between the baptisms coming up. So, we have in the U.S. what I fear is a national crisis of absent dads. We have plenty of fathers, but too few dads. You may know the famous study that Daniel Patrick Moynihan wrote in 1965 when he was an Undersecretary of Labor, later Senator Moynihan from New York. And he was calling out a national crisis because at that point, 4% of unwed women births were to white women. The U.S. average was 6%, but he was concerned that the African American rate was 25%. And I looked at the Centers for Disease Control the other day, and the numbers are even more frightening. Unwed births to white women are 30%. Asians are in the high teens, Latino and Native American are in the 60s, African Americans in the 70s, and the U.S. average is 40% of children are born to unwed mothers. We're conducting this terribly risky social experiment that human beings haven't tried before, and I don't want to dwell on the costs, but instead wanted to focus on some of the benefits of a man being a dad. There are personal benefits to a man, first of all, attending church with his family at least once a month. I've stood here before when I was a warden and talked about it. So once a month is about 12 hours a year. There are 8,760 hours in a year. We are awake for about 5,870 of them. So what I'm asking for is 0.2% of those waking hours for those 12 hours once a month. And the benefits are actually documented in peer-reviewed studies conducted by Harvard. These are longitudinal studies with over 16,000 adults. Benefit number 1, you will live longer if you go to church once a month, any church. 2, you will suffer fewer debilitating diseases if you attend once a month. But for the purpose of this story, there are benefits to your children as well. They will grow to be well-adjusted adults into their 20s. And I think this is what the world, the United States, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the town of Milton really should be following today. A personal aside, when my wife Mary was pregnant with our first child, we did not know the sex of the baby. And not knowing whether it was a boy or girl, she told me this anecdote, that the self-esteem of a little girl and then a woman is directly proportional to the way she is treated by her father. And so I did a little research on this, and it's called The Significance of the Father-Daughter Relationships. So I'll just read from this. A positive relationship between a girl and her father is crucial for shaping future relationships and overall self-esteem. Scientific studies, such as those published in the Journal of Family Psychology, have proven that girls with engaged, respectful, and supportive fathers tend to have higher self-esteem and better academic performance. Additionally, they establish healthier relationships and experience lower levels of stress. A father's involvement in his daughter's life cannot be overstated. Physical presence is just the beginning. Active engagement and emotional support are essential, and involved fathers create a sense of security and instill confidence in their daughter's abilities. They show love, they value their daughters, and encourage them to reach for greatness. There are similar advantages to boys. It helps prevent bad behaviors in boys and then bad behaviors in them becoming young men. It reduces the risks of substance abuse. They provide educational advantages and help build boys' self-esteem. So another aside, if any of you have or are raising boys, around 10, 11, 12 years old, they start to get a little mouthy to their mothers. And we saw this with our sons. And you know that the testosterone is surging and they're trying to find their way and prove that they can be young men. And their mothers are shocked, what happened to that little boy that used to hold my hand? So part of a father's job, part of a dad's job, part of my job was to say, excuse me, Griffith, Elliot, but we don't talk to girls that way. And you certainly don't talk to your mother that way. And it takes that dad in the room to help those boys understand that we're going to get you through this phase, but you're going to understand how to behave like a man around your mother and around women in general. So returning to the gospel, why we need more Josephs and the role of Joseph, my research found 6 different lessons he can teach men being dads. First, Joseph was an upright man. In Matthew chapter 1, 18 to 19, when Joseph discovered his fiancée was pregnant, he did the right thing. Now, I further learned that in that time, engagement was a binding contract that really could only be broken by divorce. But he chose to do the right thing. He listened to the angels that were speaking to him, and he stood by his pregnant fiancée and did not engage in marital relations until the baby Jesus was born. So Joseph was an upright man, a lesson we can all follow as men. Second, he was a considerate husband throughout his life, which is what Matthew says in chapter 1, 20 to 23. He could have treated her badly. He even had the right to stone her or shun her. Instead, he stood by her and then stood by his adopted son, Jesus, and treated him as his own. Third, he was throughout his life an obedient servant of God, as Matthew reports in chapter 1, 24 to 25. When the angel explained how Mary came to be with child, he obeyed. When an angel told him to escape to Egypt on foot, as our gospel told us today, to protect his wife and child, he obeyed. When the angel told him to return to Nazareth after the death of Herod, he obeyed. So throughout his life, he was an obedient son of God. The fourth, he was a good citizen of his country. He wasn't a rebel. When the Romans told all the Jews to return to their birthplaces to be taxed, which was more like a registration or a census, he obeyed the law. So he lived within the confines of his role as a citizen of the Roman Empire. Fifth, he was a protector of his family. When the angel told him that Herod was seeking to kill the baby Jesus, he listened and stole away to Egypt, which is a journey of 150 miles from Israel to Egypt, on foot, part of it with a donkey, but looking for water, looking for sources of food, avoiding bandits and trouble, but he took that journey to go protect the two of them as the Lord had told him to do. So he protected his family and then returned when he was found out that it was safe because Herod had died. And throughout, number 6, throughout his life, he was a concerned father, which Luke says in chapter 2, 41 to 50. He raised Jesus as if he were his own child. He taught his son his craft of carpentry. He took him to the temple, i.e., he went to church. And he raised his and Mary's other children as a good and caring father. So we need more Josephs today because, 1, there are benefits to men personally from being dads and attending church. 2, there are benefits to men's children of being dads. And 3, there are benefits to our society of children being raised with high self-esteem and then entering our society as well-adjusted adults and becoming righteous moms and dads in their own time. Thank you.